We are following breaking news in London, where a former UK ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, was just arrested on suspicion of misconduct while in public office.
New video shows police leading him out of his London home. And earlier this month, UK police launched an investigation into the longtime British politician and his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Today's arrest comes just days after former Prince Andrew was taken into custody for the same offense and then later released. What are the details about Mandelson's alleged ties to Epstein?
So, Morgan, this is a fast-moving situation, and at this point, British police are not giving out many details. They are just saying that Mandelson was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Hi guys, Adam speaking. Breaking news out of London just moments ago. A former British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Video footage captured the moment police escorted him from his London residence in handcuffs. This arrest comes just days after Prince Andrew was taken into custody on similar charges and then subsequently released pending further investigation.
What we do know, separately from the vast trove of documents released by the Department of Justice, is that Mandelson had a very long-running relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson is someone who has been on the political scene here in the UK since the late 90s. We don't know exactly how or when he and Epstein met, but we do know, according to these emails, it appears Epstein sent Mandelson around $75,000 in the period between 2003 and 2004. And later on in 2010, when Mandelson was an extremely senior member of the British government, he sent Epstein, according to these files, details of internal British government deliberations about how to deal with the financial crisis of 2008, sparked by the collapse of Lehman Brothers.
The Epstein arrests have officially begun, and they are getting closer to Donald Trump than he ever imagined possible. Over the past 72 hours, authorities in the United Kingdom have detained two high-profile figures, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, and Peter Mandelson, a former UK ambassador to the US. Both face serious criminal charges directly linked to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking network.
The recent release of millions of pages of evidence from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation is drawing attention all over the world. This goes beyond new evidence of the sex abuser's friendship with King Charles's brother, Andrew. The scandal is also forcing Britain's prime minister to answer tough questions about his leadership.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moved out of his royal lodge Monday, stripped of his home and royal titles for his association with Jeffrey Epstein and accusations of sexual abuse that he denies. Last weekend's release made these photos public. Andrew crouched over a female on the floor in Epstein's New York home and appears to confirm this infamous photo of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre as real.
The charges include misconduct in public office and allegedly sharing confidential government information with Epstein while he was alive. These aren't symbolic gestures. These are real criminal prosecutions of powerful people who thought they were untouchable. And here's why this is happening right now. The Epstein files were released by the Department of Justice in late January 2026. 3 million pages. Emails, videos, flight logs, depositions, financial records, photographs. Everything investigators accumulated about Epstein's global network of abuse and influence. And countries around the world immediately began combing through those documents looking for their own citizens, their own officials, their own powerful figures connected to the convicted sex offender. When the United Kingdom found evidence implicating Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson, they didn't hesitate. They acted. They made arrests, and that sent shockwaves across the globe because it proved something that many people doubted. Even royalty can be held accountable. Even ambassadors with decades of political connections can face handcuffs. The era of protection for the powerful is ending. Now here's what makes this terrifying for Donald Trump. His name is all over those Epstein files, not just mentioned in passing, not just appearing on a guest list, but embedded in emails that paint a devastating picture. There are messages where Epstein tells Ghislaine Maxwell that Trump spent hours at his residence with one of Epstein's victims. Not minutes, not a quick hello, hours, extended periods at properties where we now know abuse was occurring. That's not a casual acquaintance. That's not someone who just happened to attend a party. That's someone who was present in the spaces where trafficking happened, spending significant time there. There are other emails where Epstein discusses Trump's policies and his inner circle, messages showing ongoing contact, regular communication, conversations about political matters. Epstein felt comfortable enough with Trump to talk about sensitive topics, to discuss policy, to reference people close to the president. That level of familiarity contradicts everything Trump has claimed about their relationship being distant and inconsequential. And according to NPR, dozens of pages related to sexual abuse accusations involving high-profile figures, including specific references to Trump, were initially missing or withheld from the public database. Which raises an obvious and terrifying question. If the released emails are this damaging, what's in the documents that are still hidden? What information about Trump was considered too explosive to release? And when will it eventually come out? Congress is now demanding answers. Lawmakers are pointing at the arrests in the UK and Europe and asking why the United States isn't doing the same thing. Why are European elites facing handcuffs while American power players connected to Epstein face nothing? Why is the Trump administration apparently protecting Epstein conspirators on U.S. soil when other countries are prosecuting theirs? That pressure is building every single day. Every new arrest overseas makes it harder for Trump to avoid accountability. It creates a narrative that there are two justice systems, one for Europeans who get arrested and one for Americans who walk free. And that narrative is politically toxic. It feeds public anger, it undermines trust in institutions, and it puts Trump in an impossible position. If he doesn't pursue Epstein conspirators in the U.S., he looks like he's protecting them, protecting himself. But if he does pursue them, the investigation could circle back to him, could expose his own connections, could lead to his own arrest. He's trapped, and he knows it. Let's dig into why these arrests are so dangerous for Trump specifically. Start with Prince Andrew. For years, he faced credible accusations. Photos existed showing him with Epstein and Maxwell. Flight logs placed him on Epstein's planes. Victims gave testimony describing his involvement. But for a long time, it seemed like he would never face consequences. He was royalty. He had connections. The British establishment appeared willing to shield him. That protection ran out. The Epstein files contained too much evidence, too many emails, too many flight logs, too many witnesses. British authorities decided they could no longer look the other way. So they arrested him and charged him with misconduct related to sharing government information with Epstein. And that sends a message. Even the most powerful, most connected people can be prosecuted if the evidence is strong enough. If Prince Andrew can be arrested, Donald Trump can be arrested. The idea that certain people are untouchable just died. Now look at Peter Mandelson. He's a political figure, a former ambassador, deeply embedded in the UK establishment. He's been charged with sharing confidential government information with Epstein. That means Epstein had access to state secrets through Mandelson, which raises questions about what Epstein was doing with that information. Was he blackmailing officials? Was he selling intelligence? Was he using secrets to gain leverage over governments? And if Epstein had that kind of access in the UK, did he have it in the US too? Were American officials sharing sensitive information with him? And if so, who? And what did they share? Those questions are now being asked loudly by Congress, by the media, by prosecutors. And Trump can't make them disappear. Now let's talk about the emails specifically implicating Trump, because these are the documents that could form the basis of a criminal case. The email where Epstein tells Maxwell that Trump spent hours at his residence with a victim is devastating for several reasons. First, it's not hearsay. It's not speculation. It's Epstein's own words written to his co-conspirator describing Trump's presence at a location where abuse was happening. That's documentary evidence, authenticated and released. Prosecutors can use that email to establish opportunity, to show Trump was present in places where victims were being abused. And they can call the victim mentioned in that email to testify about what happened during those hours, about what Trump did or said, about what she witnessed. If her testimony corroborates the email, that's a powerful combination. The other emails discussing Trump's policies and inner circle show ongoing contact. They show Epstein felt comfortable discussing political matters with Trump, suggesting trust and familiarity, a relationship that went beyond casual socializing. Prosecutors can use those emails to establish motive, to argue Trump had reasons to protect Epstein, that Epstein had leverage over Trump because of what he knew. And the missing pages NPR reported are ominous. If dozens of pages about Trump were withheld, what's in them? Are they more explicit? Do they contain direct accusations? Do they describe criminal conduct? And who decided to withhold them? Those questions suggest more damaging information is coming. That the emails we've seen are just the beginning. Now consider the legal mechanisms that could be used to prosecute Trump. Conspiracy to commit sex trafficking is the big one. If prosecutors can show Trump knew about Epstein's abuse and helped facilitate it in any way, that's a federal crime carrying decades in prison. The email showing Trump spending hours at Epstein's residence with a victim could be evidence of knowledge and facilitation. There are potential state charges in New York or Florida for sexual assault or rape. If any victims come forward and say Trump assaulted them at Epstein's properties, and if the statute of limitations on those crimes hasn't expired, charges are possible. Some sexual offense statutes have been extended or eliminated in recent years. Obstruction of justice is another pathway. If Trump tried to cover up his Epstein connections, if he pressured witnesses, if he destroyed evidence, any of that could be charged separately. Prosecutors love obstruction charges because they're often easier to prove than underlying crimes. You don't have to prove Trump committed sex trafficking, just that he tried to hide evidence of it. And here's what's making prosecution more likely: international pressure. European countries are arresting their elites. They're showing it can be done. American prosecutors are now being asked why they aren't doing the same. Why are American power players being protected when Europe is holding theirs accountable? That pressure creates political will. It makes it safer for prosecutors to go after Trump because they can point to the international arrests and say, "We're just following the global standard." Congress is adding to that pressure. Lawmakers are demanding investigations. They're asking the DOJ and FBI what they're doing about Epstein conspirators in the U.S. They're threatening hearings if answers aren't provided. Prosecutors are being pushed from multiple directions: internationally, domestically, politically. All of that makes it more likely they'll act. Now look at what Trump is doing in response. He's panicking. He's attacking the Epstein files as politically motivated, claiming they're being released to hurt him, calling it a witch hunt. But those attacks aren't working because the files are real, the emails are authenticated, the evidence exists. Calling it a witch hunt doesn't make it go away. He's trying to control the DOJ through Pam Bondi and his other appointees, trying to make sure investigations don't get too close to him, trying to bury damaging information. But that's getting harder because career prosecutors are resisting, because Congress is demanding transparency, and because international investigations are creating pressure he can't fully control. Trump knows that if he's charged over Epstein, his political career is finished, his legacy is destroyed, and he could go to prison. Not metaphorically, actually go to prison, serve time, die in a cell. That's his worst nightmare. And it's becoming more possible every day. The timing is brutal because these arrests and revelations are happening while Trump is already facing multiple criminal cases: the hush money conviction, the classified documents case, the election obstruction case. Epstein isn't his only legal problem. It's just the newest and potentially most damaging because it involves sex trafficking, involves victims, and creates moral outrage that's harder to deflect than technical legal arguments. What happens next? The arrests aren't stopping. They're accelerating. Every new arrest overseas increases pressure on American prosecutors to do the same, to go after Epstein conspirators in the U.S., to investigate Trump's role in Epstein's network. The most likely scenario: more arrests happen overseas. More European elites get charged. More flight logs get analyzed. More victims come forward. The pressure on American prosecutors becomes overwhelming. They can't ignore it anymore. They can't claim insufficient evidence when Europe is successfully prosecuting people based on the same files. So they open investigations. Those investigations start with lower-level figures, people who facilitated Epstein, who helped recruit victims, who provided locations or transportation. Prosecutors flip those people, offer immunity or reduced sentences in exchange for testimony. Those witnesses start naming bigger fish, naming the powerful men who actually abused victims. Eventually, those names include Trump. Then prosecutors have a decision: charge a former president or back off. The answer increasingly looks like they charge him because the evidence is strong, because victims deserve justice, and because the international precedent of arresting Prince Andrew shows it can be done. If Trump gets charged, his life changes completely. Even if he doesn't get convicted immediately, even if trials take years, the indictment itself is devastating. It confirms prosecutors believe they have evidence of serious crimes. It creates a narrative that Trump was part of Epstein's network, that he's a sex criminal. That narrative sticks regardless of what happens in court. His political support erodes because even his most loyal supporters have limits. Being charged with sex trafficking crosses a line for many people. They might tolerate financial crimes, might tolerate obstruction, might even tolerate election interference. But sex crimes involving minors? That's different. That's unforgivable. His base fractures. His political career ends. Legally, Trump faces the fight of his life. Sex trafficking charges carry long prison sentences and are harder to defend than other crimes. With sex trafficking, the facts are simpler. Did you know about the abuse? Did you participate? Did you facilitate? The Epstein files provide evidence for all three. Emails show Trump knew Epstein had young women at his properties, show he spent time there, show ongoing contact and relationship. Victims can testify about what they saw Trump do and say. His defenses are weak. He can claim he didn't know about the abuse, but the emails contradict that. He can claim he wasn't close to Epstein, but flight logs and photos contradict that. He can claim victims are lying, but when multiple victims tell similar stories and documentary evidence corroborates them, that defense falls apart. If Trump goes to trial on Epstein-related charges, he's in serious danger of conviction. And conviction means prison, real prison, not house arrest, not minimum security white-collar facility. Federal prison for sex trafficking, which is harsh and dangerous and where Trump could spend the rest of his life. That possibility is driving Trump's current behavior, the desperation, the attacks on prosecutors, the attempts to control DOJ, the threats against witnesses. All of it stems from fear that the Epstein investigation is going to destroy him, fear that arrests have started overseas and will eventually reach him, fear that he's running out of time and options to prevent it. Beyond Trump personally, the Epstein scandal is damaging the entire American elite. Billionaires, politicians, celebrities connected to Epstein in the files, all facing potential scrutiny. That's creating a crisis of legitimacy because people see that the rich and powerful were part of a sex trafficking network, and many face no consequences. The contrast with Europe is stark. European countries are arresting their elites, Prince Andrew, Ambassador Mandelson, potentially more to come. In America, mostly silence. A few investigations, some bad press, very few actual charges. That feeds the narrative of a two-tier justice system where regular people go to prison for minor crimes, but elites walk free even when connected to sex trafficking. That narrative is politically explosive. It's fueling populist anger. It's undermining trust in institutions. It's creating pressure for accountability for someone, anyone, to be held responsible. Trump is the most obvious target because he's the most powerful person connected to Epstein, because his name appears repeatedly in the files, and because he's already facing multiple criminal cases. Prosecuting Trump over Epstein would serve multiple purposes: deliver justice for victims, prove former presidents can be held accountable, restore some faith that the system works. That's why pressure to prosecute is building, not just from victims and activists, but from the public, from voters disgusted by what they're learning. Trump knows public opinion is turning against him. People are connecting dots, seeing emails, hearing accusations, and believing them. Once public opinion shifts, Prosecutions become politically viable, become something prosecutors can pursue without fear of backlash because the public wants it. The bottom line? Epstein arrests have started in the UK and Europe. They're creating pressure for arrests in the US. Trump is at the top of the list because his name is all over the files, because emails show he spent hours at Epstein's properties with victims, because evidence suggests he knew about the abuse and stayed close to Epstein anyway. Trump is terrified because he sees what happened to Prince Andrew, sees that even royalty can be arrested, and he knows he could be next. Prosecutors could charge him, he could face trial, he could be convicted, he could go to prison and spend the rest of his life behind bars. There's nothing he can do to stop it. He can't destroy the evidence. It's already public. He can't silence the victims. They're already talking. He can't control prosecutors forever. The pressure is too great. Trump is cornered, desperate, and facing the very real possibility that his Epstein connections will be his downfall, that the arrests that started with Prince Andrew will eventually reach him, and that when they do, his freedom, his legacy, his entire life will be over. He'll go to prison just like he fears, just like he deserves. The handcuffs are coming. It's only a matter of time.